Welcome to BigCountryPreps.com. I'm Evan Wren, and this is the Capital Farm Credit Wednesday night podcast, our weekly look at the area athletic scene, what happened last week, and what's going on this week. I'm here with my partner, Dan Youngblood, via Zoom. And tonight, Dan, we're just going to have sort of a retrospective. We're going to look back on the basketball season, boys and girls, which has just concluded over the weekend, and maybe a quick brief look ahead for baseball and softball as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think we had a really strong basketball season throughout the area. We had sent 4 teams to the girls' state tournament, had 3 playing for an opportunity on the boys' side to play for a state tournament. Unfortunately, lost those 3 in region finals on Saturday, but so a lot to talk about. I think when you look at what some of these teams did throughout the season, I think that there's a lot that a lot of these teams have to be proud of, and we both got to see a lot of that action over the weekend. So I think it'd be good to kind of, like you said, recap kind of what we saw not only this past weekend, but really all season with what some of these teams were able to accomplish.
Before we do that, we need to thank our primary sponsor, Capital Farm Credit, with offices all over Texas, including Stanford and Abilene. Buy your own slice of Texas with Capital Farm Credit. Together, we're better. All right, and with that, we're going to take a look at the girls' state basketball tournament, which I attended at the Alamo Dome in San Antonio over the weekend. We had 4 teams down there competing for state championships. We had Huckabee and Robert Lee in Class 1A. We had San Saba and Stanford in Class 2A. Stanford and Robert Lee both won their semifinal games and advanced to the championships. Huckabee and San Saba both fell in the semifinals. Robert Lee, let's start with Robert Lee. They advanced and faced Ackerley Sands for the state championship. And if you some of the stats in this game were actually mind-blowing. I've never seen a team out rebound the other, shoot a higher percentage and out rebound their opponent by 16 and still lose. And that is a testament to the factor of that trapping defense that was employed by Sands, which forced 36 Robert Lee turnovers and ended up taking 57 shots to Robert Lee's 24.
Yeah,
they just created more shots, and that's how they won the basketball game.
Yeah, I mean, that's the story of the game. Every one of those 36 turnovers is keeping you from at least getting a shot at a look at the basket on the other end. And
yes,
and when that happens, particularly when there's that type of discrepancy, I mean, it's almost impossible to win a basketball game. And I mean, you have to shoot almost, a perfect percentage to have any opportunity. And unfortunately, it did not go that way for Robert Lee, which got to a pretty decent start. They were tied there, I guess, early in the second quarter, and then Sands had that 29-0 run, which really kind of put the game away. To ended up winning 60-33, but. I mean, I thought Robert Lee, came out pretty well. I thought they came out and were ready to compete, but you could kind of tell early that the turnovers were going to be a problem, and they really became a problem during that run.
Yeah, they were down 12-8 at the end of the first quarter, and then we had just an enormous run from middle second quarter into the third quarter, and yes, 29 straight points that extended into the third quarter, and by then, really, Robert Lee was out of it. They were out of contention at that point. And you could see the frustration mounting. They had some young girls out there. They had some veterans, but some young girls out there too. And you could gradually see the frustration mounting and the body language changing a little bit as the game got away from them. And the pressure was just relentless. That's about as good a 1A team as I've seen, frankly.
Yeah, and I mean, they had to be very, very good defensively to do that to a team like Robert Lee, which really moves the ball well, has good guard play, and the fact that Sands was able to do that to that Robert Lee team kind of tells you, what kind of team they have. But I thought that if Robert Lee could maybe keep it close in the fourth quarter, that would maybe be an advantage of theirs, because they played a lot of close games and won a lot of close games to get there. They beat Highland 61-53, Hermley 53-50, and then that state semifinal game was a great game, 46-44 over Netchus. So they'd had some experience in their previous 3 games, in tight 4-quarter games. I thought if maybe they could get Sands into that type of game, it would be beneficial for them, but they just weren't able to do that. That run kind of took them out of it, like you said. But what a great season for Robert Lee! I mean, what a great run to the state championship game for a great group of girls that really just continue to improve each year of their careers. And there's some girls in that senior group that are definitely going to be missed out there.
The semifinal game between Huckabee and Ackerley Sands took on a very similar pattern with Sands beating them 56-29, and that game was actually fairly competitive at the break, 26-18. and then a 20-1 run through the third quarter. Again, with the relentless trapping defense and the pressure, turned the game completely on its head. 32 turnovers by Huckabee in that one. Again, unable to cope with the trapping defense. They are so well coached in that defense, and they're long anyway, but to always be in the right spot, that's coaching, and they make very few mistakes. So,
yeah. And that's one thing that we kind of talked about, is that with that defense that they play and with their ability to force turnovers, it just, your margin for error is so small. Like, I thought we saw both Huckabee and Robert Lee play pretty well to stay in the game early, and then all of a sudden you look up and you're down, double digits, and it feels like it's over just because of the defense that they play. So it is one of those games where you have to play so incredibly well just to stay in the game, and as soon as they make their run, it feels like it is over. But congratulations to Sands. I mean, that was obviously a very, very good basketball team to do what they did in that state tournament. A couple of really lopsided wins over good teams. So they definitely earned that state championship trophy.
All right, now we're going to jump up to Class 2A, where Groover was the eventual state champion, and they had eliminated both of our ball clubs. They eliminated San Saba in the semifinals and then went on to beat Stanford in the championship game. We'll take a quick look at that semifinal win over San Saba, 69-29, just a relentless effort on the glass by Groover in both games. Aside from the fact that they've got Bailey Malpin, who is one of the best ball players you're going to see, a Texas Tech commit, a great guard. They're really tough on the glass. And really that's where they won both games, out rebounded San Saba 31 to 22, and then, held them to a very low percentage, 27% from the floor. A very good defensive team, a very good rebounding team. It's about as good a 2A team as you're going to see, really.
Yeah. And honestly, it's interesting. They're not the same. They don't have the same style of play necessarily, but I kind of felt the same way about this 2A bracket in the state bracket that I did about the 1A, where we both kind of thought Ackerley Sands was the favorite to win the state championship, and it was going to take a really monumental effort to beat them in the 1A. I kind of felt the same way about this Groover team, which came into the state tournament undefeated and ranked number 1. So I think everybody kind of unanimously kind of felt that they were the team to beat. But it was kind of the same way where they have the ability, in their case, because of the advantage they have on the boards, and then with the couple of guards that can really score the basketball, where they have the ability to pull away from you to where you can feel like you're in the game 1 second, and then the next you're looking up at a big deficit. And that's kind of what happened to San Saba. I thought obviously Stanford lost in the state championship game 50-38, but I thought, all things considered, I thought that they handled themselves pretty well to take that Groover team as deep in the game as they did.
The Stanford girls really battled against a great Groover team. I mean, just really battled. They fell 50-38, and this is despite. They lost by 12, but the game was closer than that. For the most part, it was closer than that throughout the game, and this is despite getting out rebounded by 19 boards, 39-20. That is a big advantage on the glass. And Bailey Malpin, the girl that we were just talking about, had a double-double of 16 points and 14 rebounds.
Yeah.
But the thing is that throughout the game, Stanford only had 3 second shot opportunities, only had 3 offensive boards, only 3. So they really just sealed off the glass, and they're tough defensively. They don't necessarily create a lot of turnovers, but they clobber you on the glass. They hold you to a very low percentage, and you just don't get second shots. And there you have it. And before you know it, you're down.
And you mentioned what the Maupin girl did offensively. You also have to take into account what she did defensively, which is keeping Leilona Applin off the score chart for a while there. I mean, really kind of bottling up to a game that she's not really accustomed to having. So I thought that was a huge key too, because Applin's such a big part of what they do offensively. The fact that they were able to keep her, out of the lane and getting her points like she usually does, I thought was a big key to kind of getting out to taking early control so that they could win.
It was enormous. I mean, she scores 22.5 a game, and they hold her to 9. And they did it largely by having Malpin shadow her.
Yeah.
And that, you got one of the best athletes in Texas shadowing you. It's a real challenge. Applin still had 9 points, which you can commend her for, considering who was guarding her. But to lose that production and get beat on the glass like they were, that was really a tough handicap to overcome. And they still competed. They still went out there and competed, which really shows you how good that Stanford team was.
Yeah. And one of the things I thought was neat to see was that Tylee Jo Bevel reached double digits again. So from the region tournament on, she was in double digits every game, and really a big part of what they did, despite playing through the injury she did this year. And she made herself a big part of what they were doing. I thought that was really cool, particularly given the fact that she wasn't sure after she got injured whether she was going to play a second of basketball her senior year. So I thought it was neat that she was able to contribute as much as she did, really, on the whole way. I mean, like I said, even that Stanford game, or even that Groover game rather, where they competed really hard, she was a big part of it.
All right. And with that, we're going to take a look at last week's boys action. But before we do that, we need to thank our sponsors. First and foremost, Capital Farm Credit, who brings you these Wednesday night podcasts throughout the school year. Also, for the love of the game broadcasting, our old friend Terry Slavens, owner of K-Lakes 93.5 FM out of Breckenridge, 97.7 FM KATX out of Eastland, Classic Country AM 1330 out of Graham, 94.7 FM KWKQ out of Graham, KROO 1430 AM out of Breckenridge, and KWBY 98.5 FM out of Ranger. That is for the love of the game broadcasting. Also, Rob Durham, sales consultant up at Bear Chevrolet Buick Cadillac in Breckenridge. If you're in the market for a vehicle, new or used, give Rob a shout. He's one of the nicest guys you'll ever want to meet. Call him at 254-559-2266. That's Rob Durham up at Bear Chevrolet Buick Cadillac in Breckenridge. And finally, Phil Hill of the Abilene Realtors Group, big supporter of local athletics. If you're in the market, give him a shout at 325-669-5153 or visit his website at philhillproperties.com. All right. And with that, it's time to take a look at boys basketball. Dan, boys basketball season for the big country is over. We lost every single one of our ball clubs last week, and you were on hand for a number of those games.
Yeah, I mean, we had several opportunities at the regional tournament. We had Lingleville and Huckabee in the Region 3 1A. Hermley was at the Region 2 1A tournament for the first time ever in their school history. Got to the region championship game, which was obviously a huge deal for that program before they lost. And then Jayton, who is accustomed to being at that level, also got to a region championship in 1A. And then you look up, we had Cisco in the Region 2 2A tournament, and then Brock in the Region 3 3A tournaments. We had 5 teams, I guess 6 teams rather, with an opportunity to play their way into a state tournament. Unfortunately, none were able to, but you still, I mean, you have 3 teams playing for that opportunity. It's still a good season.
I was a bit surprised that one of our 1As did not squeak through as many opportunities as we had with Jayton, with Strawn, with Huckabee, with Hermley. We had a number of 1A shots at it, but nobody squeaked through.
Yeah, and I think part of that is just that
quality of the teams. Yeah,
the quality of the teams, and particularly when you look at that Region 3 1A bracket, where we had Huckabee beat Strawn in the region quarterfinals. Lingleville also advanced to the region tournament, but unfortunately for Lingleville and Huckabee, you get to the region tournament and your reward are games against Dodge City and Grayford, which was the eventual region champion. So Grayford will represent that region at the state tournament. But I think that's the problem. And this is something that EULA can attest to, because they had to play in Region 3 for a while. When you get to that Region 3 tournament, it's a different animal. And basically, for a large part, because of those 2 programs, Dodge City and Grayford have been good for a very long time. They put a ton of talent on the floor for a 1A school. And that was just kind of what happened to Lingleville and Huckabee. But then you go to Region 2, and it's in Region 1, it's kind of the same story. I mean, Jayton has to play the defending state champion in Text Line, the team that beat them last year at the same level. And then for Hermley, it was a matchup with a really good Erie County team. So once you get to the region championship, once you're playing for an opportunity to go to state, you're always going to be playing a really, really good team. And ours just kind of ran into that.
Even when you get to the regional quarterfinals, by the time you get there, you're facing somebody that could, is going to be a problem. So, and jumping up to Class 2A, speaking of regional quarterfinals, we had to say goodbye to Goldthwaite last week. And then in the semis, we lost Cisco to a Great Celeste team in double overtime in a classic.
Oh, that was a great game. Brandon McAuliffe was out there for that one. I was following him through social media because my game had ended before his had. So I was, refreshing my phone and checking out that one. And Cisco played a great game. Both teams went back and forth. It was just one of those classic matchups where neither team wanted to lose. Unfortunately, things got a little bit away from Cisco in the second overtime period. But to that point, they ended up losing 73-63 in double overtime. But to that point, that was a nip and tuck game where both teams were just, fighting their hearts out. And unfortunately for Cisco, they saw their season end. But There's another great team. With Coach Hearn did another great job and that's kind of become one of our really strong programs in this area at that level. So it's been cool to see Cisco continue to, battle to that level and to get to the region tournament.
The biggest near miss that we had to go to state in our coverage area, the Brock Eagles fell to Wichita Falls City View in the Region 1 3A championship game, 46-44 in overtime, in a game that you described as an absolute classic.
Yeah, it was. And what's interesting is it followed another classic. They beat Shallow Water 61-57 in what everybody expected to be a really good game, and it was in the semifinals. And their reward for that was to play a City View team, which you got to see earlier in the year, which is just loaded with talent. That is a really, really good team, a really well-coached team. And I mean, there was not a lot at all separating City View and Brock. Those two teams, I mean, the game was basically within 4 points the entire way, one direction or the other. And it just came down to the wire.
All right. With that, to close the basketball season, we will be coming out here in the coming weeks. We will be releasing our All Big Country Preps basketball teams, girls and boys. We will also include our All Big Country Preps Gym Rat team, which are the hardest workers in the Big Country area. We've also got a new addition to our Big Country Preps lineup. We're going to be releasing our Rising Stars team, which are the underclassmen, the top freshmen and sophomore players in the area, the ones that we expect to have the biggest impact in the future. And then many of them already are having a big impact, but it gives you a peek of what to look at in the coming seasons in Big Country basketball.
Yeah, I mean, that's something we kind of brought out for the football season, and I think you and I both really liked the idea. It got us a chance to take a look at some of these younger players who were already having an impact and who are only going to get better. So I think that'll be fun when that comes out. And really, I always enjoy putting these teams out in general. We always kind of like voting on these things and kind of speculating on how these teams would perform against if they were actually playing in these games. But there's a lot of talent in this area on both the boys and girls side. It's going to be fun to highlight that here at the end of this month.
All right. And don't forget that throughout the spring, if you want to follow Big Country softball, baseball, and track and field, Big Country Preps is the spot to do it. We will be including game coverage. We'll have features. We'll also have our statistical leaders from throughout the area, which is has really been a big hit. And I think people are really enjoying, monitoring who the top hitters are, who the top track athletes are. And we'll be doing our very best to stay on top of that throughout the spring.
Yeah, that's something I think you and I are both excited about. That's one thing we kind of take a little bit of pride in here is kind of when we do turn the page to the next sport in the next season, we're going to hit it with a lot of intensity. And that's what we plan to do here with baseball, softball, and track now that basketball is behind us for the most part. We've got our all Big Country Preps teams coming out at the end of the month, but we're going to be, starting our baseball and softball coverage plan this week. So we're going to find lots of game coverage. You're going to find lots of features. You're going to find those stat leaders, like you said, and same thing with track. We're going to have the track leaders and features. So if you like the way we've covered sports to this point, I think you'll like the way we hit these next spring sports as well.
All right. And with that, it's just about time to wrap up the Capital Farm Credit Wednesday night podcast. But before we do that, we want to remind you that we have 3 separate subscription packages here at bigcountrypreps.com. We got a monthly for $5 a month. We've got a semi-annual 6-month subscription where we knock that price down to $4 a month. And then we've got an annual 12-month subscription where we knock the price down to $3 a month. 12 months for $36, a full year of Big Country High School athletic coverage.
We'd also like to remind you that if you ever see a photo you like in any one of our galleries, those are available for purchase. You can purchase a digital download for just $7. And we also have some keepsakes and prints available. So make sure you check those out. As you're scrolling through the site, you'll see in these galleries, we take a lot of photos from these games that we're at. It's something that we enjoy doing and something we're very proud of here at bigcountrypreps.com.
All Big Country, all high school, all the time. Welcome home.